I'm here to support this event after the election, starting with just the smallest of symbolic gestures. Hello, how are you? Please and thank you. Perhaps that will move us closer, and hoping for the divisions that are currently dividing our country disappear, so that we can in fact be the United States of America and not the divided States of America.
To me, during COVID, it's been really critical to make sure we're connecting as a community, no matter how we can, and coming today just felt like another way that we could connect with one another. We've had a whole history in our country where we have voted differently than our neighbor, than our family member, and we have to learn that the first step is always respect and kindness, and how do we really listen to one another. And I think the mayor's going to get started, but I think the first step is how do we make sure we're truly listening to one another and put policy first that focuses on the people, and I think that's what matters.
I really want our community to take the time to heal and to repair from this very, very contentious, energized, actually historic election. The most people came out to vote in any presidential election ever, and that is a phenomenal thing. Not only was it historic and record-breaking, it was glass-breaking, right? We have the first women vice president, a woman of color, an Asian woman, a black woman. It's amazing. So amazing stories, but our country is still broken, and we are torn apart, and we're divided almost in half in the ways we look at things. And it has become tribal, and we don't communicate with each other like I know that we can and we should. And I was telling, I don't usually share this very much. I'm a Democratic mayor. My whole family are Republicans, and I love them, and I communicate with them, and I have to understand where they're coming from, but I also need them to understand where I'm coming from. And so it's really important, until we can truly listen to each other and understand each other, compromise. We need to compromise. It's not a bad word. It's the only way that we're going to succeed as a country and overcome the problems, the really phenomenal problems that we have ahead of us. And whether it's the pandemic of coronavirus or racism, or all of the other challenges that we face in front of us, we've got real big issues ahead of us. And so again, if we don't come together, we're going to be stuck. And if you stand still, you lose the race, and then we're not going to be the country we can and should be. A democracy is only successful if you understand what's happening, the reality of what's happening. Because you can't make an educated vote if you don't know truth and you don't know facts. So we have to be, with so much information coming at us from so many different sources, we need to be discerning residents and people. Because without that, we could be taken down a path we have to question and ask those difficult questions. Is this true? Do I agree with this? There is news and then there's opinion. They're two separate things. And so you can't take opinion as news. We are a beacon to the world, and I know that we can shine much, much brighter than we are right now.
As the mayor so thoughtfully shared, I think we all saw in our country the last few days what democracy can look like. And I have to say, we should have a lot of pride here in our own town of West Hartford to be showing with such great force that we care about every vote, and we want every neighbor and family member and friend to get out to vote, which is why in our own town we saw over 86% turnout. 86% turnout. And we had a remarkable use in our town as well, which I think speaks to, again, how we want everyone to be engaged in this political process. We had record use of absentee ballots. And it really speaks to how much folks want to be engaged in all of these decisions, not just the ones that were made at the polls this week, but moving forward. So I know that I joined with many of my colleagues here, like Senator Slapp and Representative Gilchrest, that we want to make sure that this activity and this engagement can continue, and that we have permanent expanded absentee balloting, that we have early voting, that we make sure that we can make sure that everyone in our community can vote in as easy and accessible way possible, because that's what makes sure that after these elections, we can come together. So I hope that this is a moment where we believe in the power of our vote and we continue to make sure that we're using our voice for change. And as Shari said, it's the first step to how we come together and make decisions that benefit all of us. So thank you all for being here, and let's move forward.
Hi everyone, I'm Jillian Gilchrest, a state representative, and I'm happy to be here today to join with you on what is an incredibly moving, powerful day. But it's also a day to come together. And so I would echo what our President-elect Joe Biden said, in that even if we're on different sides, that doesn't make us enemies. Differences are important. And I think difference of opinion makes for stronger policy. And so going forward, I would love for us to be able to have dialogue where we can disagree, but we can do so respectfully. So that really is my hope. And I intend to continue operating that way at the State House. I work with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and I do truly believe that we come to better policy decisions when we can hear a variety of perspectives. So again, I'm happy to be with you here today. I stand with you, I stand for you. Thank you.
Anybody who thought, you know, now that the election's over, 2020, everything's gonna go back to normal, and then you woke up today and there was an earthquake, and I'm like, that's perfect, right, for this year. Like, what is next? You know, every year I go to my in-laws in New Jersey, and let's just say they are not aligned with me in my politics, but it's a really good practice for me because I sit with my father-in-law and we watch football and drink bourbon, and you know, we find each other's humanity. You know, we connect. Now, he passed away this past year, so I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to miss that a lot. But I do think that that's, you know, that's our challenge. So what can I do, you know, to reach out and to help bridge that divide that exists? I reached out to new Senate Minority Leader. You know, for those of you who don't know, so he's a Republican, a good guy. I served with him on the Aging Committee, congratulated him, said, you know, look forward to working with you. And so I think there's a lot of that should be going on right now. So you know what, it's better when the parties work together, and not just politically, not just like big picture, but just, you know, I think back to my father-in-law on that couch and like that connection that we have. And I always feel so much better coming back from New Jersey. And he gave me some things to think about, and I gave him some things to think about, and that's how we get there. So that's my hope. We got a lot of challenges. We got this pandemic that we're gonna need to roll up our sleeves and work really hard together to solve it. We gotta rebuild our economy. I mean, the list goes on, but it starts with those micro interactions, like on the couch over bourbon, or another beverage if that's not something to your liking. So anyway, thank you to our great mayor for helping to organize this year. Your leadership is an inspiration, so thank you very much.
I would say, I don't know if anyone else wants to talk, and if you do, please step forward. But I will say, take care of each other, support each other, listen, be good to yourself, be good to others, and I'm so proud of our community.
It really starts with, you know, not seeing other people as other, and saying, you know, oh gosh, you know, they voted for this person or whatever, and so you say, I have no use for them, that kind of thing. But to try to understand where they're coming from, and to really listen. And sometimes that's pretty difficult, especially you come through this like really partisan time. And during the election, that's what, you know, that's what it's about, is being partisan. But now it's like we really do need to take the partisan labels off.
One of the things I said was listen, right? To really talk to people that are not like you, that maybe don't think like you do, and listen to why they may disagree with you, or why, you know, and to not just talk at somebody, but talk with somebody.
I think that it starts with ourselves, each and every one of us, incremental small steps, baby steps. And then I think for those of us who are involved in organizations, can try to make changes through policy or regulations, or just simply thinking about doing what would benefit all.
We are better than this. We can disagree, and we are better with a two-party system that respects each other, that communicates, that cooperates, and that really does move forward together in a way that both sides are giving. And this is how our country was founded. This is how we have progressed and overcome some of our biggest challenges. And if we don't figure that out on how to work together, we're going to be stuck. And we're going to lose the race, because if you stand still, you lose the race. So if we don't keep moving forward and figure out how to compromise and fix our problems, then shame on us. I do think that we have a responsibility to understand where our actions come from and where our history is. And so best to learn about it, even if it's painful and you don't want it. And then we can make ourselves better by learning and understanding that history.
I'm getting a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails, and I get back to everybody promptly and listen to what they have to say and treat them with respect, and don't put labels on them. So I think just your human interactions, it starts with that. And then beyond that is, I'm going to be rolling out really kind of a listening tour and community conversations going into the session, our legislative session, which starts in January, to make sure that, I really have a sense of what people's priorities are. And so, that's my job as a legislator, to do that.
I think it's reaching across and just engaging in dialogue and assuming that the other person has goodwill, that they're not trying to harm you or harm your friends or your family, but they just have a different perspective on life. And I think part of compromise is realizing that not everybody gets what they want. Everybody has different objectives, and sometimes you need to give a little to be able to get something for yourself.
We're doing community conversation series with Noah Webster House, and we actually have relied on history to guide us in some of the things that we feel are important. The first was policing, because that was a topic that was so timely and so much in people's minds. We're doing a curriculum in the schools, housing and zoning and what that means, healthcare. We declared as a town healthcare as a racism is a healthcare crisis. Understanding the statistics of people of color and how their lives are impacted by healthcare. And it's not a matter of economic status necessarily. There really are risks to people of color that they've had from maybe birth and that have exposed them to asthma or whatever. And so they're more vulnerable to things like a pandemic. And we should understand that. The other things that we need to look at, how to again, be more inclusive in not boards, commissions, in governing bodies in our town. So that's something that also we're working on.
I'm just so proud to be a resident of West Hartford, because we have in this town a long history of community activism, and we have a resident population that is diverse, inclusive, and people feel free to come out and speak. And that's what we're doing today, is supporting that right.
I really am committed to developing and helping our community be the best community it can be. It's a really tremendous, we have tremendous people in this community that are always striving to make the community better.